If I look back and I look at every single thing that Storm has ever done, we classed up the world of bowling. And I'm going to take full credit for that.
The thing with Storm was a big risk, and I didn't have any money to speak of, but I had to take risk.
It just occurred from nothing other than risk, dedication, never saying no. And I think the key was we're too stupid to know we couldn't do it. That's it.
Bill, he goes after everything.
The way we got started was I was in another business. Name of it was CC Distributing. It was an industrial supply and industrial chemical business. In the 80s, urethane balls, everybody was cleaning them, put them in a dishwasher or put them in their sink and washing them with dishwashing detergent and to keep the reaction better. So I said, well, I can make one that you can clean, put on a towel and clean on lane.
Bill decided to start making this product called You Clean, You Score. And we started making it at CC Distributing.
And a friend of mine who worked at Fab-Ball, Utah, came up to me. He said, well, try to make it and let's see what happens. And I'll try to sell it to see if I can sell it to Fab-Ball. He wasn't successful, but he did, however, give me a list of all the United States distributors. So, I went ahead and I made a box and printed the bottles and leap of faith and went forward. That's You Clean, You Score's first poster. We sent that to different pro shops. And the theory is, if you clean your bowling ball, you get consistent, repeatable performance by cleaning your bowling ball.
One day, a guy called me and said, hey, I'd like 50 dozen You Clean, You Score. And I went, oh my gosh, we don't have 50 dozen You Clean, You Score. I didn't have a hold button on the phone, so I put the phone down in my lap and thought, oh gosh, please don't let the dog bark and don't let the kids scream. I picked it back up and I says, yes, we have that in stock. Is it okay if we ship that to you tomorrow? He said, no problem. I said, great. I hung up. We went and got all the kids out of school. We started bottling ball cleaner. And so that's kind of one of our very first stories that I can say that was just a changing point in my mind. And then when Keith Orton came up to us and said, how about we make bowling balls?
We didn't know what we were going to do. We didn't know how anything was really going to take over.
And I don't know why, but somehow I decided to start making bowling balls. I managed to talk one guy into loaning me $25,000, which in retrospect was a drop in the bucket. That's enough to buy a lathe and get sample material. And
when we first started, because we didn't have our pumping system up, we'd pour them out of KFC buckets.
We were going to go to lunch, and we went to Kentucky Fried Chicken. We bought a bucket of chicken, and Keith and I said, well, hey, let's do this. So we bought a couple extra empty buckets. We went back to the paint stick and mixed the two A and B and mixed them up and poured them into a mold and around a weight block and made a bowling ball.
Doing it by hand, you're not going to get the best quality out because you mix too much air and stuff in it. But it gave us an idea of what we had.
This bowling ball right here, that was poured in a bucket. That's my bowling ball. I bowled with it. This is how the original ball looked. We made black urethane balls, and the first bowling ball, we made a logo that said HSP and it was High Score Products. We're trying to find a name for the bowling ball, and my wife and I and two of our friends, we went to dinner at a Mexican restaurant, trying to think of a name.
I said Storm.
And everybody stopped and looked at her and says, that's it. So we named the ball Storm. And that was the name of the ball at the time. And then our next ball was a Storm, and our next ball was a Storm. This is the logo we originally used. This is what we went to next. In 1994, I received a cease and desist letter from a company called High Score Products in New Jersey that I was infringing on their name and taking advantage of their business.
I didn't even know there was a company called High Score, S-K-O-R-E Products. So they sued us.
By then, the High Score Products name, it kind of wore out, and everybody referred to us as Storm anyway. So I dropped the name, and we took on the Storm name as the company name.
We thought, well, we've already got a storm, and maybe we could take storms and maybe add tropical storms or sandstorms. And we all of a sudden started kind of going down this idea. Back in those days, we just wanted to name the next bowling ball. We weren't thinking that we were going to have 300 bowling balls later. We were thinking in the next 6 months, well, we could come out with a Pacific storm.
But back in the early days, we struggled.
I never knew if it was going to make it or not. Bill and I lived personally on the verge of bankruptcy all the time. I'll never forget the day that there was no money in the bank. Bill had taken it out to pay for a storm.
I took that money out of the account in order to pay some bills I had to pay.
And so at that day, I went to Bill and I said, you know, either Storm stands on its own 2 feet or we're pulling the plug. And I think that's when Bill took his entrepreneurial brain and really applied it to the very best reactive shell technology bowling ball that was controllable. And that's really what started us.
I happened to watch it was a Brunswick World Championship, I think, in November, and Tony Westlake was on TV, and he was using this ball. Probably was one of Keith's balls, actually, that was made in Utah that he was using. Because Keith had worked for Excalibur, we were working with the same urethane company as they were. So I told Keith, I said, I need a sample of that urethane.
When I was working at Fab Ball, we tried some of this material from this same distributor, and then we were told we had to get away from it.
I said, well, let's try it. Let's see what happens. We got it. We poured some samples and worked with it. And we made a bowling ball called the Teal Storm. There was no other reactive balls on the market.
People couldn't believe how much energy there was in the back end.
Without that incident, we wouldn't have survived I wouldn't have survived till June of that year. But by doing that, that started us going. So.
One question he asked me that I always remember is do we want to get big and compete with the big boys? Do we want to make 100 balls a day? Of course, both of us were not content. And so that started us that, okay, now what do we have to do? We've got to get distributors on our side. We've got to get the good bowlers on our side, which ended up being Pete Weber at the time.
In the fall of '96, my tour rep, a gentleman who works on tour, drills bowling balls, called and said, I'm going to comp Pete Weber some balls, and he bowled really well in this tournament, and he wants to talk to us about signing a contract. Well, at the time, he had a really bad reputation.
I don't know if he really wanted to sign with us. He just wanted to sign for anybody.
January 1 of '97, he was under contract with us, and he has been ever since. And he was a huge part of our success then. He went on to make 10 shows that year and get us all kinds of exposure, and his personality is what it is. And he's still instrumental in our company, has been all along. So we've got other people now. We've got other people on staff, professionals that are on staff that are huge in the company too. And we've had huge women too. We won more in the last 10 years worldwide than any company. So it's not, we make good bowling balls, and good players use our bowling balls because they can win with them.
We had to start somewhere, but where we are today, it's way over my head. I think I contributed a lot in getting our feet wet, so to say. Getting the first weight blocks and getting the balls going, and we had some ups and downs, and we've advanced so much faster than what a lot of the other companies have.
There are these things that they say, if you dream it, you can taste it, and you can feel it, that it is created. And I am telling you, when Bill first started Storm, and he would talk about Storm, people wanted to be a part. It was like there was this huge magnet. It just occurred from nothing other than risk, dedication, never saying no. And I think the key was we're too stupid to know we couldn't do it. That's it.